You will see that our next fallacy is related to some of the other ones we've discussed. One name for this fallacy is cherry picking. If you've ever picked cherries or some other fruit from a tree or a bush, you'll be familiar with the idea of picking only those pieces of fruit that meet your standards and putting those in your bucket. If the fruit isn't ripe, you leave it on the tree. If the fruit is rotting, or it has been partially eaten by some critter, you might take it off the tree, but most of the time you don't put it in your bucket. Only the fruit suitable for human consumption makes it into your bucket. The fallacy of cherry picking works the same way. The speaker chooses the pieces of information that work with their argument and then leaves out the other pieces. Sometimes people do this with facts they use in an argument as well. Deliberately leaving important facts out of an argument is called cherry picking. For example, a 1950s ad for Royal Pudding Mix proclaimed that it provided 74% more food energy than the fresh whole milk in every serving. Now, at this time, it probably sounded pretty appealing to consumers. Sounded wholesome and good for kids who needed energy to grow. But think about it. In today's language, what does this ad say? It says that royal pudding has 74% more calories than milk does. That's what food energy is, calories. And why does it have that? Well, if you combine pudding mix and milk, you're going to end up with more total calories than the milk has alone. That's just how it works. Maybe people wanted that in the 1950s, but that promise won't work today. Today, if a food ad mentions calories, it will be because the food is low in calories. Where does the cherry picking come in? What the royal pudding people aren't telling you is that these extra food calories contain very little in the way of actual nutrition. It's just calories. What they are emphasizing are the points about their pudding that would appeal to their audience. The interesting thing here is that it would clearly not appeal to today's audience. Today, companies use different words and slogans to sell the same product. Today's box of Jell-O pudding, for example, proclaims that it is only 90 calories per serving, with no artificial sweeteners or high fructose corn syrup. The Kraft website says this: if you have to prepare something sweet instantly, Jell-O pudding is the best. It cures the craving for a dessert in an instant. So, we've gone from promoting pudding as a wholesome, delicious treat and providing food energy to promoting pudding as a quick dessert that will satisfy your cravings for sweets. Note the emphasis today on quick and on satisfying cravings. Both of those things are important to consumers today, but apparently didn't matter so much to consumers in the 1950s. You can see that both ads play to their audience and emphasize the points that would be important to them. Both ads leave out any negative information about the product. Another pudding ad claims that pudding is a good source of calcium when mixed with milk. Today's consumers are looking for nutrition, even in their desserts. The calcium might sound good to some consumers, but what the ad doesn't mention is that if you look at the nutrition facts, you'll find that all the calcium that's in the pudding is actually just from the milk. So you could get every bit of that good calcium just by drinking a glass of milk. The pudding mix isn't needed for that. But the pudding company isn't going to tell you that. They can't legally hide that information from consumers, but they sure aren't going to draw attention to it. They want you to associate their pudding with good nutrition. You might have seen another example of cherry picking when you've read reviews on a business's website. Have you ever looked at a site that had nothing but super positive reviews? That business may be cherry-picking the reviews they've received and posting only the ones that make them sound good. They may also be posting only the good parts of the reviews that they receive. Similar to the example on the screen. Movie review from Newspaper One. The acting in the Fallacy movie was terrible, but the costumes were superb. What you might see on the Fallacy movie's website? Superb. Newspaper One. Now, sites like Yelp, where lots of businesses are reviewed, don't allow cherry picking of reviews, but on a business's own website, it's fair game. They can post whatever they want. I've been involved with writing and editing back cover blurbs for books, and it's done there too. I had an author send me a review from someone that said, among other things, that the book could have been dry and boring, or something to that effect. You can bet that that part did not make the back cover of the book. A smart thing for consumers to do is to check other review sites such as Yelp and don't just rely on what a business says about itself. Statistics can also be cherry-picked. For example, in a political campaign, you might notice that one candidate uses one set of statistics and another candidate uses a different set. Maybe candidate 1 quotes numbers to say that unemployment is falling, but candidate 2 quotes numbers to say that it is rising. How can that be? One or both candidates may be cherry-picking their statistics. Candidate 1, for instance, might be using numbers from the most recent 3 months, when unemployment was in fact decreasing, while candidate 2 might be using numbers from the previous year, when unemployment was increasing. Sneaky, huh? Pay attention to where numbers and other information come from. So when is this kind of technique not cherry picking? A more trustworthy way of reporting data would be to report all relevant data and then explain why those that don't fit the argument are anomalies, rather than indicative of different trends. If you can address this difference in a satisfactory way, people are more likely to accept your argument. Of course, if you can't address this difference in a satisfactory way, maybe you shouldn't be making this argument in the first place.